This is the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. Here's your host, Jessica Coody, and Husker Radio Network analyst, Jeremiah Sirles.
Welcome into another episode of the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. With the big dog, Jeremiah Sirles, I'm Jessica Coody. We are going to dive into this USC matchup. We're going to talk all things offense and the offensive coordinator, that announcement coming out on Monday. But before we do, we have to start the show with where we left the podcast a week ago. And you did a Dancing with the Stars event. How did it go? I'm on the edge of my seat.
It was a lot of fun. Kathy and Blake Collinsworth did a great job putting on that event. Emma and I went second, thankfully. I think if we would have went any later, we went second in the order.
Oh.
Like there was 8 couples that danced.
Okay.
If we would have went any later than that, I don't think it would have ended well for my lovely wife, who I love dearly and dragged into this mess. And she had fun with it eventually, and she was a trooper for doing it. But we tied for first in the fan voting.
That's awesome.
We lost, the judges won, but we had a lot of fun with it. It was a great night, had a lot of fun with good people, and raised, I think, close to $100,000 for their cause, which is a fantastic cause. And I will be saying that we probably will never do it again, but it was an experience. It was something we'll get to do and talk about forever, so it was a lot of fun.
That's great. You actually like to dance a little bit.
I loved it.
You like to tear up the dance floor.
Like, we were there, and like we got there early, and I'm buzzing off the crowd, and I'm dancing, and I'm having fun, and my wife's just like, and everyone's like, "You okay?" And she's like, "I'm fine." I was like, we'll be fine here in about an hour.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations on your fan vote.
Thank you.
That's the most important vote, is a fan vote.
Of course.
So
I told Emma, hey, regardless of how it goes, just do the gladiator mentality. You win the crowd, you win your freedom. Right? Like, I just took the old Russell Crowe advice there.
Oh, that's greatness. Well, we had spent some time on this last week, but we didn't really know the role that it was going to happen with Dana Holgorsen. We knew that he was joining the staff, but announced on Monday that by Coach Rule that he's going to be calling plays and he's going to be having the offensive coordinator title moving forward. So your reaction to that, and just hearing that there's going to be quite a switch up here with who's leading the offense moving forward.
Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind that this was a possibility. I didn't think it was going to happen this quickly. When you hire a guy like Dana this time of the year, you kind of see the writing on the wall of like, hey, bring him in, get him comfortable. You'll probably offer him the job coming into next year. But to make the switch when he did, I give a lot of credit to Matt Rule, and I give a lot of credit for the stones that takes to do. Because as we all know, Rule's a very loyal guy, and he preaches on that. But Rule also is about winning. And he's a preacher of telling his players, you got to do what's right. You got to do the hard decisions. You got to make the tough things, the tough call. And this is not an easy talk for Rule to do, to talk to Satterfield and talk and say, hey, this is what we're doing. But that's why they pay you the amount of money you do. And I'm excited for it. Sometimes a switch up and a change up is just what you need to stir things up and get things going. And man, talk about who you don't want to be right now. USC. Talk about planning on one game plan and a year's worth of film of here's what they do, here's their tendencies, here's what they're going to get to now it's like, well, we don't know what's going to be out there. We're not sure what to plan for. And it gives us the advantage initially in the game, but it still is going to come down to execution of what's going to happen, who's going to play quarterback, all those things. But I'm very excited about this. I'm excited that they were already planning for the future. I mean, Dana's going to be the offensive coordinator hopefully going into 2026 or 2025 and all those things. So really excited about this move, and I think it was necessary for this Husker offense because it just hasn't been working and we haven't been winning football games.
And that's what Coach Rule said. Look, there's so many things at this program that we're doing right and that we feel like we're making the necessary improvements in, but the offense just hasn't moved along as quickly. And he said, I felt like it needed a change and felt like Dana Holgorsen was a guy that could help make that change, do some tweaks. But in being that this is a playbook that's been installed, I know that Dana Holgorsen is an offensive genius, but how much can he potentially do and change and add to an offense at this point, coming off of a bye week, but going into the last 3 games of the season?
Yeah, it's not going to be a reinvention of the wheel in the last 10 days. Right? It's not going to be he came in and threw everything out, the baby with the bathwater, and reinstalled everything. But there's going to be new wrinkles. There's going to be new concepts. There's going to be new route concepts. I'll tell you this, there's no one more excited on this team right now than the wide receiver room, right? You talk about what Dana Holgorsen does and the tree that he comes from. They're going, oh, air raid, baby, let's go. There's no one least excited than usually all the people in my camp here of the run the damn football head.
No,
Like,
listen, I disagree with that because for as much as they do like to air it out, Dana Holgorsen is a guy that he does rely on the run game a little bit more than the rest of some of the other guys that were in that tree. At West Virginia, he had some really good running backs that they relied heavily on running the football.
And I hope they do. And I think that initially you're going to have to do that until you can get your full passing concept installed and have all the answers to all the tests and all that thing. You're going to have to rely on the run the game. But this is going to bring, I think, some excitement, some cut Dylan loose, all of those things. And I'm really excited about the direction, and it's going to help with recruiting. Right? If I'm a receiver, oh, baby. This place got a lot more enticing for me to come to because I know we're going to throw the football around, right? If I'm an offensive lineman, this is okay. We're going to be able to get 3-step, 5-step. It's not just going to be these 5-step or these 7-step drops and pass protection forever. There's going to be some creativity involved. The excitement level for me, because I know what the Mike Leach tree is offensively, is through the roof right now. And I'm having to tamper some of that expectation because it is week 9. And it's not like, oh, it's going to be this revival. It's going to take time. But I love the fact that we made the change now and we can get some game tape. We can get some experience in this offense, get some things going with what Dana Holgorsen wants to do before we just head into the offseason or into bowl prep. Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
This makes making a bowl so much more important. Right, not just from the aspect of making a bowl game, but from the practices.
Yeah, to have that
practices that it comes with.
Yeah.
The ability to spend the month of December or 2-3 weeks or whatever, however many weeks it is, with live practices with this offense. That is going to be so important versus yes, we get to go to a bowl and that's a great cap off of the season. But that practice window between the last game of the season and the bowl game is going to be so vital for this team going forward.
I had a coach once tell me that time in December is even more important and better for development of your younger players than even in the spring.
100%. I completely agree with that. And if you think about it over the course of a 3-4 year span, right? When I was in school and we went to bowl games every year, you talk about a freshman that comes in and he gets 3 years of bowl practice. That's like an entire season's worth of practice.
Yeah.
Right? That's 3-4 weeks, and you compound that over 2-3 years. You're going, man, that was 9 weeks of development, right? That's 9 more weeks in pads. That's 9 more weeks executing. And that's not 9 weeks of sitting on the couch watching people practice. And getting back in the weight room is great, but you can't replicate the real thing. And so going to bowl games is not just about the bowl games. It's about development of a culture, and it's about development of a team, because those weeks are just so important. While you're game planning and you're prepping for the bowl game, you're also having young guys scrimmages and young guys getting involved and the whole bit. It is so much more important than a spring ball practice.
Greg asked me this on Sports Nightly, and I'd like to get your take as a player within that locker room. And Coach Rule was asked about this. How did the players respond? And he said, I haven't really had those conversations. I feel like just from the guys that I've had lengthy conversations with, they will do whatever Coach Rule says. They will run through a wall for him. So if he believes that this is the change to make, they will follow in line. Kind of what you had said earlier. Is that something you agree with, that you think that these players, even though, yes, it's a shakeup, it's you're adding something new that you've got it, but there are so many players that have been through a lot throughout their times here at Nebraska. This is probably something that they are more than capable of taking on and handling. But I just feel like there's so much belief and trust in Coach Rule within that locker room that if this is a change that he believes that needed to be made, that they will be fully on board with.
As a player, I would have been more worried about if he didn't make this change. Right? I would have been more worried about, is he just going to keep riding with this when we know it's not working, versus he identifies it and he self-scouted just like we do of, this isn't working. Well, why would I keep banging my head into the wall if it's not working? Let's change it up. Let's put a helmet on. Let's run through the other wall, right? So as a player, you're going, all right, coach, I see you. I see what you're doing here. I'm 100% behind you, right? Let's go do this thing. And it also shows players, hey, if you're not performing, I'm not afraid to pull you out of here either.
Yeah.
You're not doing well. This isn't just a coaching thing. This is a statement to every single person in that building, every single person that has something to do with winning football games on Saturday. If you're not doing it, I'm not afraid to put someone else in that position. And I love that mentality from Coach Rule.
So, I guess we heard also this week that Dylan has not practiced. He got hurt pretty badly in the game against UCLA, and I know it was fortunate timing with the bye week that they could probably bring him along. Solely, Coach Rule's keeping it very close to the vest. He was asked, could he have played if they had a game on Saturday? He, didn't really, answer that. I guess, what are your thoughts on, again, with Dana Holgorsen coming in, working with Heinrich Haarberg, what kind of looks that gives him? But then also, is it more so maybe potentially a little bit of a chess game being played here and not wanting USC to know how far along Dylan is?
Well, yeah, we will not know if Dylan Raiola is going to play or not until Saturday. Right, that's just the way college football goes, right? You have the injury reports, and he's going to be listed as questionable throughout the entire week, game time decision. And the hard part for USC is it's very different game plans with Haarberg or Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, it's
right?
almost two different ones.
Yes, and also Haarberg and Dylan Raiola with a new offensive coordinator, right? I mean, no one is, like I talked about it earlier, no one is more upset than the quality control coach at USC, right? The quality control coach that's been doing the self-scout and the self-evaluation and going, okay, they had a bye week, we'll get in, and now he's going, okay, which quarterback, which film are we watching? Are we pulling up film from last year, or what are we looking at? Because the game plan versus a dinged-up Raiola versus a healthy Haarberg that can use his legs, light years different. And that's going to be why Rule's going to play this close to the vest, because you don't want to give USC a chance to game plan for either one, right? There is no reason, there is nothing positive that happens for the Huskers in naming a starting quarterback on Tuesday or Wednesday. What's the point?
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything, right? All it does is gives USC answers. So we won't know. Obviously, I hope Dylan can play. I think he is the better quarterback. But also, Haarberg gives us a chance to do some things creatively in the run game and use his legs a little bit more. So I think we'll be fine either way.
You and I have talked the last couple of weeks, and I think we all appreciated your take last week on the defense, and that, the standard is there. Even though they've been doing enough to win football games, you still have a different kind of expectation and standard for them. But how much does it help, though, when you can get an offense rolling just a little bit more than totally relying on the defense to win football games? How important is that moving forward?
It's huge. As you get into the landscape of college football, holding teams to 14 points is not a sustainable thing, right? It's not a realistic ask to ask your defense week in and week out to be like, boys, we need 2 touchdowns, right? Things happen. There's playmakers on the field. I mean, there's guys that are going to make mistakes. There's players that are going to make unbelievable catches. There's things that are going to happen. I've always said it, the magic number to win football games in my mind is 24 points, right? Kind of a race to 24. If you can get 24 points in the Big Ten and your defense plays solid and can hold a team to under 3 touchdowns, you're usually going to win most of those games, right? If you look historically at the games in the Big Ten that are matched equally, it's usually 27-24, 31-28, right? Those are the kind of games you're used to. This isn't the Big 12. I'm not watching CU and Texas Tech go like, well, it's just who's going to hold the ball last, right? That's not what the best conference in college football is about. It's about playing complementary football, flipping the field, doing those things. And it can wear on one side of the ball when it's just asked them to do it over and over and over again. And we've seen that at Nebraska, especially last year, that eventually the defense ran out of gas, right? The last few games last year, they just were, the snap count and the time of possession was totally off kilter towards more on the defensive side of the ball. It was just a hard thing to ask. So getting our offense going again and getting everything back to what it looked like earlier in the year with the complementary football is going to be crucial going down the stretch.
Valentino's, treasured Italian family recipes passed down for generations. Valentino's has become Nebraska's classic Italian tradition and proudly served in Memorial Stadium for over 30 years.
Okay, let's dive into the matchup with USC and preview this one. USC's also made a change at quarterback, and so it's also a little bit of a different kind of game plan for the Huskers and the defense and what they're doing. Although I think it's a little less different of a look, right? Don't you think, with the change of quarterbacks at USC than it would be here? I think Lincoln Riley's going to do what Lincoln Riley does, whereas here you've got two completely different quarterbacks. Yeah,
I mean, USC, I don't know a ton about the new guy. I don't think he's got a ton of tape out there. I don't think that he's Lamar Jackson, right? I don't think all of a sudden we have to worry about a huge, crazy QB run game, but I do think that if you're a young quarterback going up against a Tony White defense, hold on to your butts, man, right? Like, he's coming for you. Like, Tony White smells blood in the water. And that is where I think we're going to see more blitzes than we've seen all year from Tony White this week. I think we're going to really try and pressure this kid and get after him early and get him to get the ball and make it one-dimensional and say, you want to beat us, put it on your shoulders. Because you're right, Lincoln Riley's going to do what Lincoln Riley does. He's not going to change his scheme completely all over the place. It's a totally different situation than having to prepare for Dylan Raiola or Harburg.
So, again, a high-flying offense that has historically put up a lot of numbers. What are the keys in matching up against one of these offenses that, again, they see it? This defense has probably seen a lot of similarities in what some of the wrinkles maybe that Dana Holgorsen has been putting in practice over the last couple of weeks. But when you're matching up against an offense like what Lincoln Riley puts out week in and week out, what are the keys defensively?
The big one is you gotta eliminate the explosive plays in the passing game, right? This team is a push the ball down the field, explosive type plays in the passing game, and they want to throw it over your heads. And when you make them go the length of the field with short passing game, they get a little frustrated, right? When it's not clicking and they're not having those big explosive plays, it kind of throws them out of their rhythm a little bit. So make them earn it. Right? Don't let them have the 30-yard chunk plays in the air. Rally to the ball with an 8-yard hitch and tackle, right? Force him to get the ball out of his hands quickly, right? Make them be frustrated a little bit on offensively and don't fall into their hands of trying to turn this into a track meet. That's what USC wants. USC wants this to be a track meet. That's how they were against Wisconsin. That's how they won some of their games, is it's just who can go up and down the field the fastest. Don't fall into their hands. Control the time of possession and eliminate the big play.
What improvements have you seen in the USC defense this year?
The number one thing early in the year was I thought they tackled a lot better, right? Last year, they were maybe the worst tackling football team in all of college football. I mean, most of the time they forgot they had hands. They just kind of throw their body, limp fish at people and think that they were going to fall down. When they played against LSU and they played against some of these teams earlier, I thought they were a lot better at tackling. That has not been the story as much as of late. But I do think that's something they're going to try and get back to, of the base fundamentals of just tackling better. And Nebraska hasn't been great at breaking tackles, right? We haven't been one to run through the arm tackle to get that explosive play and those type of things. So this is going to be a game that USC tries to get themselves back on track with being a better tackling football team.
With all the unknown and, the USC quarterback situation, they're kind of under fire a little bit, feeling a little bit of pressure with the changes that are going on at Nebraska and Dana Holgorsen coming in and not knowing who's going to be the quarterback. I mean, what's your excitement level, your interest level, your intrigue level in this matchup?
I almost feel like we're going into a week 0 game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I really do. It's like this almost nervous energy of the first game of the year.
It feels totally different.
Yes.
Like this week.
2 weeks ago, we're like, okay, UCLA, here's what we're going to do. Here's what they're going to do. Here's the matchups. Here's that and the other thing. And then you look at the preview for this game and you're like, sure, yeah, that sounds like that might work. Or maybe that's going to work too. Who knows? And that's what makes this game so much fun. I'm going to turn the TV on Saturday and go, all right, I'm buckled in and ready for anything because I have zero expectations of what's going to happen here on either side of the football. All I can hang my hat on is I know Tony White's coming after you. That is the one, like, boop. If I put my finger on one thing, that is what I know to be a truth about this game.
How fired up do you feel like this defense is going to be? They played a lot better in the second half against UCLA, but they have shown that they can get pretty fired up outside of Indiana against some of these teams that have pretty explosive offenses. I mean, how I guess, on hair on fire do you think they'll come out playing against this USC offense?
I would expect them to come out with the same level that they did against Ohio State. I think Indiana was a bit of an anomaly, right? And that happens. We ran into one of the hottest teams in college football. We ran into a buzzsaw, and we wore it. The part that I think is good for this defense is that was a learning experience, and we didn't fall into we're the same old Nebraska, right? They didn't fall back. They rallied, and it didn't start great against UCLA. But at the same time, you can't pin that game on the defense. You say we held them to field goals in the red zone majority of the time. We gave up a pick six. And I know I was hard on the defense last week because I expect so much of them. I expect nothing less of them this week. The standard doesn't change. The standard is the standard. I expect a smothering, dominant defensive performance from the Black Shirts against a team that has tons of questions. Coach may be on the hot seat. New quarterback. This is just a froth at the mouth type of defense. Chomp at the bit, like, let me loose, coach. Let me go get this guy. Let me go just shove it right into these dudes' faces. I expect that type of mentality from all 11 Black Shirts on the field on Saturday.
Well, I mean, we've kind of hit on it. A lot of unknown going into this one, but I guess what would be your three keys if you could point to three of the biggest keys for the Huskers to leave LA with a win?
Yeah, number one, get back in the plus turnover margin, right? Young quarterback, going to throw some interceptions, going to get after him, put some pressure on him up front, force him to give us a couple turnovers and then take care of the football offensively. I mean, winning the turnover battle, it's part of the reason you look at our turnover differential over the last 3 games, it's been really bad. Right? So getting back on track with the turnover differential on that side of it. On the offensive side of it, don't try and do too much, right? There's going to be excitement. There's going to be a lot of unknown. Just play within the scheme. Let the things come to you. Let Dana Holgorsen cook, as the kids would say, right? Let him cook. Let him get to what he wants to do. Let him find out the wrinkles he wants to put in. Let him be why you brought him in here, and don't try and do too much. And then lastly, from a team's perspective as a whole, handle the road game, handle the West Coast travel the proper way, and don't make more of it than it needs to be. Every week, I feel like now with the conference realignment, it's like everyone on TV wants to talk about, like, oh, these guys had to travel 3 different time zones over here, and how are they going to handle that? It is what it is. It's just another road game. It's no different than flying to Iowa. It's no different than when I used to have to bus to Kansas State. A road game is a road game. Be a professional, right? Don't make too much out of it. Show up, kegs, eggs, and football, baby, right? Just go with that mentality. Don't make more of it is, and just allow the game to be about the 60 minutes between the white line and not the noise outside of it.
Okay, so you've watched USC a few times, but if you're Dana Holgorsen and you're diving into this defensive game film, which offensive player is someone that you think could maybe be utilized in this matchup that maybe USC is going to have a hard time matching up with?
I want to say Isaiah Nair.
Yeah.
Right? I want to say, a guy that's been pretty relatively quiet over the last 4 or 5 games. I haven't heard much about him. Dana Holgorsen's going to come in and meet him for the first time and be like, hello, shiny new toy, right? Like, we can do a lot with you. You're big and fast and scary. Like, let's go use you. And I would love to see Dana Holgorsen scheme some things up for him in the pass game and get the ball in his hands early and get him his confidence back, get him his swagger back. He's going to be a weapon for us. So I would love to see Isaiah Nair have another big breakout game with this new offensive scheme.
Okay, and then defensively, who really needs to play well against this USC offense?
It's Deshaun Singleton. The safety in the back end, in him and Isaac Gifford, are going to be 2 guys that have to have extremely disciplined football games because, like I mentioned earlier, limiting the big play means safeties being where your help is, right? Double who you're supposed to be, bracket who you're supposed to be. Don't get caught with your eyes in the backfield and get caught flat-footed and have guys run by you. Be very disciplined in what Tony White calls, whether it's man coverage or zone coverage or a blitz, because you guys will be the eraser when things go bad, and you guys could be the playmaker when there's the opportunity to go and the ball's in the air and you have a chance to make a big hit or a chance to go get the ball in an interception. Those 2, kind of that rover and that safety position, are going to be ones that I'll be paying very close attention to. You
ever been to the stadium?
I have not. I have not played in the Coliseum. No, it was a stadium I always wanted to get to, but I've never been there. It's an iconic stadium.
Yeah.
Very iconic stadium. So no, I'm jealous that you guys will get to be there.
You know what I'm happy about? That it was not the 7:30 kickoff.
Oh, yes.
That it was the 3 o'clock Central kickoff, and that we will not be getting back at 5 a.m.
That is, yes, that I agree with that from not just your guys' perspective, but from a team recovery's perspective, too.
Yep. All right, well, good stuff. We'll, I guess, have a lot more answers for you next week, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We'll have, it'll be entertaining. Either way, we'll have either really good to break down, crazy to break down, or somewhere in between.
All right, well, good stuff as always, and congratulations again on that Dancing with the Stars co-trophy.
You ever seen a dancing bear? I sent you the video.
I'll try to cover some of it. Try to show some folks how good you were.
The highlights. Hit the highlights.
All right. All right, for Jeremiah Sirles, I'm Jessica Coody. Thanks for watching this episode of the Sideline Slice presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers.
Go Big Red.
Valentino's, a slice of home you just can't get anywhere else. What started with a treasured family recipe has become a Nebraska tradition for over 65 years. Proud to be the official pizza of the Huskers.